She gets into relationships to have somebody to lay with at night. You would be amazed how many men will lay with a woman in bed, okay, and watch her phone buzz and go off with notification from man after man after man after man after man, okay? They do this and they get into these relationships because they're lonely and because they still want somebody just to be there, just to give them attention, just to validate them. When they're having a hard day, okay, somebody to lay with, to take the stress off of life. Not only that, they want somebody to potentially build a future with that will give some sort of emotional stability. Not emotional stability, financial stability. This shit is very much for them. When they get into a relationship and commit to a specific guy, it is for them, which is why for you to completely close off your options, okay, for some promiscuous chick online, okay, who oftentimes parades around and acts like a bimbo, okay, when every selfie is with her duck lips and her ass sticking out, I have to scratch my head and ask myself, what the fuck are any of these guys doing? But then I remember just how few options men have, which leads me to believe one thing. Okay, the world as we see it, the world in general, right now the world, okay, how men operate, how women see men, the world is very, very, very uncomfortable. At the root of male nature, when you get right down into it, the world is very, very uncomfortable when you look it dead in the eyes and you realize just how much control men want. I'm going to let that sink in. Just how much control men want. Every man wants control within their relationship. And the reason why he wants control, meaning, yes, that you can have that app, and I like, you should have that, you shouldn't have that. Okay? I'm setting the rules, I'm setting the frame for the relationship. The reason why deep down every single man wants control is because he knows damn well he has to have it or shit's gonna go south real quick. In a relationship, a woman is not able to set the frame and the boundaries for healthy relationships to have happen, and the reason being is because that is 100% the man's hardwired duty. However, since men have been convinced through downplayed terms that make them feel less than. For example, if you want to exercise any amount of control or stability or rules or frame within your relationship, such as if you are going to date me, you will not have male friends, or if you're going to date me, you will not have Snapchat with all of these guys talking to you, or if you're going to date me, these are the expectations that I have. The reason why men are so afraid to do that is because there's been propaganda around that labeled it as insecurity. So what the world knows is the world knows that the biggest way to get at a man is you sit and you chip at his ego. And if you can chip at his ego, you can start to make him question himself and lower his self-confidence. Fuck all that. You have to be able to spot this shit. Every single time the world wants to label you with something, a label created, oh, you're an asshole. Oh, you're fucking insecure. Oh, you're too controlling. Oh, were you raised that way? Every single time they try to get you to do that, fuck all of that. Because you need to know, you need to have stronger self-assurance within yourself that says, look, I am not afraid to follow my intuition because I know what's right. And I know that the more shit that I put up with, the worse my relationship and every relationship is going to be for that matter, because the woman does not want to have to set the frame and the expectation. A woman wants to be led. If you know that and you accept that truth, it is now your duty to operate life on your own fucking terms. Now, that does not mean in any way, shape, or form to be evil and manipulative. There are some women who are not going to want to get on that agenda. Fuck it. Okay? Because just like how a woman will reject you for not being masculine enough, the beautiful thing is you can look at her and say, well, that's great because the relationship is dissolved because you're not, like, she's not what you're wanting. The key is to have an actual standard. So when she doesn't meet that femininity standard, if she doesn't want to follow the lead of a man, if she doesn't want to get on board with his plan, if she doesn't want to follow the rules, and yes, I am going to call it the rules of the relationship because somebody has to fucking set them, and it sure as hell isn't going to be her. She ain't going to do it, so who's going to do it? What's the expectation for how we both have to act? There isn't one. Okay? You're now able to say, well, okay, cool. You're not what I'm looking for, so I'm going to find a woman who's more feminine, who's going to get on board with my plan. Here's when the rules start to change. You need to stick with me on this video because this is important. The rules start to change, okay? The world demonizes and scrutinizes men for being controlling, or they scrutinize men for wanting to have a standard and an expectation for how their female is supposed to behave. The world wants to make you feel like you're a bad man for doing that until one thing happens. Can you guess what that thing is? The one thing that changes all of this shit is when you become successful, okay? When you become successful and you become somebody, and I'm not even going to say successful, I'm literally going to say when you become attractive, okay? When you look like a masculine man, when you have muscle, when you have low body fat, when you look like the type of guy who can fight, who can protect, who can defend, who doesn't put up with shit, who also has resources, who has options, when you can finally be the man who look like how you're acting is congruent with who you look and how you look and who you are. All three of those things have to be in an alignment. How you look, okay, who you are, and what you say you are. When all three of those things are in alignment and you actually become a man, now all of a sudden the tables change. And now all of a sudden when you exercise that control, it's sexy. Now when you exercise that control, it's dominant. Okay? Before it was insecure. Before it was you're a loser. Before it was, oh, look at you trying to be somebody. Until you actually become that man, and now you start to exercise these things, well now all of a sudden it's, he's hot. Well now all of a sudden it's, yeah, I want to get on board with that. Yeah, I'm ready and I'm willing to follow the lead of him. All of these things completely go out the window. So you might be sitting there wondering, well, how the hell does this have anything to do with how women stay single in relationships? The reason why they do it and how it relates to it is because all of them are looking for that one specific man. If you look at the movie 50 Shades of Grey, this right here is the exact reason why it was every single woman's fantasy. Okay? Let this sink in for just a second. In the movie, okay, you had a man who completely fucked the shit out of her. You had a man who completely did whatever he wanted. You had a man who set every guideline, frame, and boundary, how the communication would happen. He set the frame for when the conversations would happen, how other women would be introduced into the picture. And she had a gravitational pull. She had a pull sexually and emotionally towards him that was far stronger than any other man. Now, at what point did women flip the switch and go from that's insecure and he's controlling to that's super hot and I wish a man would fuck the shit out of me like that? At what point did that happen? Take a look. The point only happened when he was fit, he was lean, he was a billionaire, and he had things going for himself, and his business was the main priority factor in how he lived life. So for those of you out there where you're saying, you know, the world shouldn't be this way, or women shouldn't act this way, or I should be able to be a loving guy or a caring guy and she should just like me for me. Great. You might think that way, but in practicality, that's not what they're attracted to. So if you can see live and in the flesh in your own eyes what the fuck they're attracted to, I believe it's your job to not be such a dumbass and actually follow it. Follow it and understand it to some degree so that way you can get ahead in the dating game instead of be at the disadvantage. Because right now 99% of guys are at the disadvantage because they're so stupid and so stubborn in their ways of how they think things should be, when in actuality, like, the world doesn't lie. Okay? Attraction doesn't lie. What she's attracted to isn't a choice between yes or no. What she's attracted to, like dude, you're not going to be able to necessarily control what you feel arousing and what you get a boner from, okay, when you have a specific woman in front of you. It's the same goes for women. So no matter what you were sold, no matter what bag of beliefs you were sold, no matter what bullshit and what propaganda you were sold that made you believe attraction and romantics and arousal and desire should be a specific way, in real life it isn't. Which means once you start to see this, okay, the whole point of life is to survive and replicate. If you're surviving but you're not able to replicate, and all of your other ancestors were before you, all of your other, like whoever lived before you in your family bloodline and tree was able to, and you're not, you have to actually look at that and say, what do I have to do to improve? What do I have to do to get to the next step? What do I have to do to scrap my old identity that's not serving me? Replace that old identity with a real identity that's more congruent to who I want to be and grow as an individual, okay? This is how women stay single in relationships, is they keep their options open until that specific guy will stick with them, or until that specific guy potentially matches up down the road to the one man that they wanted, and to the one man that screwed them the best and the hardest in bed, that made them feel most feminine. That's the actual fact. That's what most guys are not telling you. And this is why it's your job to get ahead. Now, what I did, okay, to help you get ahead, and I understand I'm putting a link, I understand I'm plugging something, I understand, yes, I am trying to go down below and get you to watch a presentation. I created the MBT webinar, and the reason being is because over the past couple of years, I stuffed 3,000 guys into a specific mentorship, and it completely changed their life. I want you to think about just how many people that is for a second. Like, if you compare like my audience size to the amount of people or like all of them, between all social media and all of the stuff that I've ran, and the people, like the amount of people who know of my stuff compared to, that means like 1% plus, a little over 1% of people is in my product. That's really high. And it's really high because when I've had testimonials of guys who've implemented the way I have thought and I've behaved my entire life, and then went on to get the girlfriend of their dreams, or then went on to have a rotation of women for once instead of being at the disadvantage and being left for the playboy. Or when I've seen guys actually use this to go on and get married in the real world and start a family, despite every other influencer telling them that marriage is a crock. You have to understand the level of belief that that makes me build in my own shit. So if I think my shit's good, and if I think it's worth showing, there's absolutely no reason why I wouldn't put it. So for those of you who comment and you're like, oh, you know, you watch these videos and then you want us to watch something. Yeah, I do. Because if it's for you, okay, if you calculate all of the other stuff that most men spend money on, between video games, OnlyFans, all this bullshit, most of the stuff people spend their money on in general doesn't serve them to begin with. So when I watch guys copy these strategies into their life and actually get ahead, or level up and get the dating life of their dreams, or start to level up and become the man they want to be and level up financially, that's the biggest ROIs within yourself, and that's what women look for. And when I created MBT, it was so you can understand the key masculine behavioral techniques to win in 2023, 2024, and so on. And while the rest of the world burns, okay, well, the rest of the world goes down this path that will consistently put every single woman on the pedestal, and most guys will consistently think they're less than. At minimum, at least you're going to have a leg up, and that truly is what's important. So you need to know this. I've shown you exactly how women stay single even while they're in relationships. I've even shown you how there is certain propaganda to let you believe that your own male nature is wrong, okay, and that it's incongruent, and that it makes you stupid, or that it makes you insecure, and that is completely false. And I've shown you how to even spot the bullshit, which means now you take this information and you go out and you apply it into the real world. You actually use it to get ahead. You turn off YouTube now, and now you go and you work, and you do the things you have to do as a man, because a man's life is hard, and it's supposed to be, and in life you are rewarded for the effort that you put in. Hit the like button, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.